we remember the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when they were thrown into the fire. Well, there was a little bit of dialogue that went on there when they were commanded to worship another god, a man who set himself up as God. I'm going to read this passage. It's Daniel chapter 3, verse 14 through 19. Nebuchadnezzar spoke unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if you be ready, that at what time you hear the sound of the trumpet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if you do not worship, you shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Nebuchadnezzar said that with all his pride and arrogance, and we're all the same way. We're self-righteous, arrogant bastards without the grace of God. We would do the same thing. Don't judge Nebuchadnezzar. We would do the same thing. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not worried to answer you in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning, fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, full of fury, and the form of his visage changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spoke and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was normally heated. And we know the story. He threw them in there, and the guards who carried them in, they got burned up, but there wasn't even the stench of smoke on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I love their response. We will not worship your gods. And I refused myself, by the grace that God has given me, I refuse to serve the false god of the false G, small god of evangelicalism. It is another god. Their God is a flimsy, goody two-shoes, cotton candy God that is not the God of the Bible. And I do mock their God. Their God is a false God. He's impotent. He's powerless. He can't save unless we exercise our free will. Our God is not bound. Our God's power is unlimited. God does whatever he wants. Did you notice the attitude of Nebuchadnezzar? Did you notice? Is it true that you will not bow down to my gods, or the golden image that I've set up? Is this true? Who is your God? Who is your God? Can he deliver you? Let's look at what happens with old King Nebi's life. Daniel chapter 4 at verse 24. This is the interpretation, O king. Remember, he had a dream. Old Nebi had a dream, and Daniel interpreted the dream. And this is the decree of the Most High, which has come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive you from men, he's talking to Nebuchadnezzar, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make you to eat grass like an ox. And they shall whet you with the dew of heaven. 7 years shall pass over you until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomsoever he wills. God places people in power, not men. He gives authority and positions of power to whomever he wills. And he's saying, you're going to know it, Nebuchadnezzar. You're now going to see that you are not God, but God is. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, your kingdom shall be sure unto you. After that you shall have known that the heavens do rule. Therefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto you, and break off your sins by righteousness, and your iniquities by showing mercy to the poor. It may be a lengthening of your tranquility. All this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spoke and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom, by the might of my power, and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken, the kingdom has departed from you. And they shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make you eat grass like an ox. And 7 years shall pass over you until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomever he wills. That same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven from men, did eat grass as the oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till hairs were grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like bird's claws. At the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes to heaven. My understanding returned to me. I blessed the Most High God, and praised and honored him who lives forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation, and all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he does according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. And none can hold back his hand or say to him, What are you doing? At the same time, my reason returned to me. And for the glory of my kingdom, my honor and brightness returned to me. And my counselors and my lords sought unto me. And I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment, and those who walk in pride he is able to abase. Wow. If that doesn't shake you up, I don't know what does. God does whatever he wants to do. Acts chapter 25, was it a sin to crucify Christ? Yes. Exodus 23 says, An innocent man thou shalt not slay. God caused them to crucify Jesus, the worst crime in history. Acts 4 verse 25, who by the mouth of your servant David have said, Why did the nations rage and the people plot vain things? The kings of the earth took their stand, and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord and against his Christ. For truly against your holy servant Jesus, whom you anointed, both Herod and Pontius Pilate with the Gentiles and the people of Israel were gathered together. Remember, against the Lord. They were gathered together to do whatever your hand and your purpose determined before to be done. God caused them to crucify Christ. Just like God caused Joseph to be sold into slavery by his brothers so that eventually he would become powerful in Egypt and be able to feed them during the time of famine. Well, guess what? The famine was the severity of sin sickness. God caused Jesus to be sold into slavery by his own brethren, crucified, so that he would bring forgiveness upon his people. God is sovereign. For God, the end justifies the means. God controls those who are in authority.